fancy plate here.
Yeah, you got a nice plate. Look at your plate over there, man. Look at that.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, it's got like the bold print there.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can do that real quick.
Hey, you. What are you doing here? Come visit us? Yeah, you're right. Want to sit up here? Sure.
Is
All
this one
dressed
yours?
up too. Ooh,
Hey, you
Okay.
sit right here.
All right.
You can be the chief of the
All right, we'll call to order the Ravenna City Council meeting for Monday, December 4th at 6 p.m. First item on the agenda is a moment of meditation and silence. And would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Chelsea, would you call the roll?
Mr. Kelfi?
Here?
Ms. West?
Here.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Here.
Ms. Wood?
Here.
Mr. Harper?
Here.
All right, we've got 3 sets of approval of meeting minutes from the regular city council meeting of November 6th, the public hearing of November 27th, and the special city council meeting of November 27th. Were there any additions or corrections to any of those? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept as submitted?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have one piece of communications on for tonight, which is a letter in your packet from the Portage County Board of Elections. And we'll move on to delegations from the public. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Klein from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good evening. I wanted to make sure that everybody had received a little handout in their mailboxes. If you didn't, let me know and I can make sure that you get it. I'm going to be respectful of your time. I'm not going to go through the entire list here because it's pretty lengthy. But if you have any questions on it, by far, feel free to ask me. In addition, reach me afterwards or whenever as well. So I know traditionally in the past, we were told that it wasn't necessary per se to come and present. However, I do feel it is important to present an overview of the impact of what your contributions have made in the past and will continue to make in the future. I'm here today to advocate for the continued funding and support of the Ravenna Area Chamber of Commerce. Our chamber is dedicated to fostering the growth and development of Ravenna. Let me share with you the pivotal role the chamber plays in shaping the economic, cultural, and educational landscape of our community. The chamber's mission is not just a statement. It is a commitment upheld through actions that directly benefit our citizens and businesses. Through a wide range of initiatives and events, the chamber has encouraged growth and collaboration in unparalleled ways. First, let us highlight the chamber's emphasis on economic development. The initiatives undertaken by the chamber have resulted in substantial support for businesses, from mentor workshops and lunch and learns to the inception of the Welcome Home to Ravenna bags. The chamber ensures that both new and established businesses thrive. The Rise and Shine and Unwind events create networking opportunities essential for business growth and collaboration. The chamber takes pride in giving back to the community. The establishment of charitable endeavors and events like the Raven Award ceremony and Honorary Way, highlights our commitment to honoring outstanding contributions, supporting local charities, and nurturing new businesses. The cultural vibrancy of Ravenna is also enriched by the chamber's efforts. Events like the Ravenna Rocks concert series and the Only in Ravenna scavenger hunt not only entertain, but also bring our community together, fostering a sense of belonging and unity. Education stands as a cornerstone of progress, and the chamber recognizes its importance. Collaborating with the Ravenna School District, the chamber actively engages with students, supporting scholarships, internships, and various educational initiatives. These efforts create opportunities for our youth ensuring their growth and future success. And let us not forget the seasonal festivities that have become synonymous with Ravenna's charm. The Halloween Walk, the Scarecrow Contest, the Ravenna Holiday Celebrations, Midnight Madness are not just events, but they are traditions that instill joy and unity within our community. Furthermore, the Chamber's social media audience has amplified the reach and visibility of all these initiatives, promoting not just businesses, but the essence of Ravenna itself. The collaboration with the city and school district underscore a united front towards progress and prosperity. In conclusion, the Ravenna Area Chamber of Commerce is not merely an organization, it is a catalyst for growth, unity, and prosperity in our community. The tangible impacts, collaborations, and unwavering dedication to the economic, cultural, and educational fabric of Ravenna speak volumes about the Chamber's significance. We understand the Council's responsibility to allocate resources effectively and efficiently. And we wish to assure you that our Chamber is fully committed to delivering tangible results with the funds we receive. The alignment in funding would symbolize a shared vision for a thriving, inclusive, and prosperous community where businesses and residents can thrive together. We request your continued financial support for our Chamber endeavors by equally matching what is provided to Main Street Ravenna, as it has been done in the past. And that's all I have, and if you have any questions, by far feel free to ask me.
All right, I appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Listen.
Thank you.
No questions? No questions? Okay. I'll turn it over to Dina then.
Hi, everyone. It's been a while since I've been in here, so kudos on the ambiance, Chelsea, for getting the meeting kicked off. So I know most of you, a couple new familiar faces here. So those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised here in this community, and I have a passion for this community and providing all the resources that we can to our residents. The passion that I have for the community carried over when I became a probation officer for the county back in 2012. So one of the things that I always wanted to do is be a resource for people and our residents. And by being a resource, I mean the phrase knowledge is power, right? So if you are a vessel of knowledge and you can share that with someone else, they then have that knowledge and they have the power to change their circumstances. That same passion that I have is something that my supervisors have seen in me throughout the years and have empowered me to continue to be collaborative and try to come up with different ways to help make a difference in our community. That being said, I actually was able to join Leadership Portage County in their last session with your own Chelsea Gregor. And one of the things that came up during our Leadership Portage County class, which I think comes up at the beginning of every class, is what is something that you think needs addressed in Portage County? And so everyone had all of these ideas going up on the board. And at the end of the session, everybody had to vote, like, what do you think is most important? And I wrote up there gap bridging. And so somebody said, what's that? And I said, well, we have all kinds of services offered in this county, and I know, Amy, you and I have had this conversation on multiple occasions. Some of those agencies or services may not know that the other exists. So sometimes there are duplicative services going on. Sometimes there's just a gap in knowledge from one agency to another, which then creates gaps within our residents to know what services are out there. And so I said, how can we bridge those gaps to help make sure that everyone knows what's going on in their community and that we can be a better resource for our residents so that when they need something, they're not calling one person and then getting the runaround to 5 different agencies until they can get what the resource is that they need. So needless to say, that became a passion for our Leadership Portage County class. And one of the things that I had suggested was looking at the community resource guide. So you guys all have in front of you 2 pages. I unfortunately couldn't print off the whole guide because it is a lot of paper. But the Community Resource Guide is something that is owned by JFS, so Job and Family Services. And I made it kind of my mission to see where this came from, how it came about, and to help see through updating it. So I was able to meet with Kelly Jo and her staff, and she had no idea that it had been shared far and wide. So this was something that I found back in 2019 as a probation officer when COVID hit. And I was constantly printing copies of it, giving it to my clients, or emailing them the link to it so that they could have it. And it had last been updated in 2018. When I spoke with Kelly Jo, she said, this was just an intern project from 2014 that we had given to an intern, And we had no idea that so many people used it. And I told her, I said, yeah, my mom actually works for Portage Learning Centers. She prints out a guide and gives a hard copy to every new family she does an enrollment for. My partner works at PMHA. She gives the guide to every new enrollment that she does for her PMHA clients. So it is shared far and wide, but it just wasn't updated. There were things in here and you're like, that's not even here anymore. And so they weren't aware, and so we started meeting over the course of the last 4 months to try to come up with better ways to update this and then spread the word. So to that point, Kelly Jo has designated one of her staff members, Andrea, and she's awesome. She will at least every 6 months hold a meeting to communicate with community partners and see what's missing. But then not only that, they came up with an email address that will allow anyone who wants to be in the guide or who has an update to the guide to email and say, hey, this is what needs updated. One of the pushbacks that we got in LPC was, well, that's what 211 is for. Yes, to an extent. So 211 is a call line, it's also a website. But they didn't match. The Community Resource Guide and 211 had separate resources that did not always cross over well. They did not match. What was in 211 was not in the Community Resource Guide and vice versa. And if someone, maybe our older population, they're not computer savvy, they don't want to just sit on the phone, if they had something like this in their hand, they could flip to the resource that they need. So point being, I guess I'll back up a little bit. What they have done is come up with a couple of things. So this large piece here, I blew it up just for presentation purposes. This is something that they are going to, and by they I mean Job and Family Services, print in postcard sizes. And they plan to distribute those wherever they see fit, obviously where funds are available. It has a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it takes you straight to the part of the county's website where you can access the Community Resource Guide. You can click on it. 27 pages, I believe I printed it, two-sided, so obviously, so math over there, what, 54 pages? So it is lengthy, but that will take you right to it. So anytime you go there, that is live. So if Andrea gets an update tomorrow, it'll be on there, it's live. If you have a paper version, obviously that's only going to be current for when it was last printed, but still you have 2 different options there. So this will be kind of shared far and wide, maybe given to people who sign up for any food stamps or Medicaid benefits, anything like that, since that is under JFS operation. The white paper that you have is a template that they've come up with to potentially do a window cling. So they're trying to find funding to be able to get window clings that look like this to give to all businesses in the county that are in this guide and any other agencies, departments, divisions, what have you, who would like one just to have it for informational purposes. What I envisioned was City Hall's closed, and then this is just on the window out there, and if someone happens to be roaming around in the evening and is like, you know what, maybe I need a resource, they can scan this QR code and they have all of that at their fingertips without even having to make a phone call. But if they do need to make a phone call, 211's number is on there. So the top just shows you the collaboration between those agencies, and then the giant QR code to find a resource that you may need. Anyone not familiar with this guide at all? Never seen it before? You guys have all seen it? That is impressive. Okay.
Tina.
So,
Oh, sorry, I thought never mind, go ahead.
well, I guess for everyone here too.
Yeah.
So I didn't print out a copy for everybody, there's just too much. But if you open it, there's numbers to remember right on the inside flap, just kind of some of the big ones that you would need. Then there's a table of contents, kind of my favorite part, honestly. So when I found this, it was only online, it wasn't in print version anywhere. And there's categories, and it's color-coded, user-friendly. So if there's something you need, like I open this and I'm like, you know what, I really could use a hot meal. Hot Meals is right there, and it's got a pink square next to it. If you're looking at it online, you could click Hot Meals, and it would jump you down to that section, so that you didn't even have to be bothered with it. And then likewise, if you have the print version, you see that Hot Meals is a hot pink. So then on the sides here, there's still like the colors that color code with those squares. So you go to the pink, there's your Hot Meals. So again, personally, I just think it's user-friendly. It would help empower residents if there is something that they need. It's easy to find, and it's not too cumbersome, if you will. The only thing that still needs some work that I just realized before I came here tonight is with all of the additions and subtractions of agencies to the guide, they got pushed around on the pages. So unfortunately, the numbers in these squares simply just don't match where they are in the guide. But Andrea will address that this week. Regardless, if you scan the QR code, you can get right to it. So I guess the moral of the story is I wanted to challenge all of you. So when it came up, how are we going to get the word out? Well, the easiest way is to just keep sharing, keep sharing, keep sharing. And how can we do that? And I said, well, why don't we start with the leaders of our communities? So city council, township trustees, any other leaders that we can think of. You guys know best what's in your community, right? So this is a county guide, but if you challenge just you guys as Ravenna City Council members to look in here and you know, you live here, what's in our community? And if you start making that list and you start flipping through here and you see that something is missing or that something is wrong, you can reach out to that email on here and say, hey, I think this needs added if you'd like to reach out to this agency, or hey, this looks incorrect, if you could update that. You guys are gonna be kind of that source of power to spread the word and to make sure that it is comprehensive and there's nothing missing, so that our residents can find what they need when they need it and not have to look all over the place. So that's my challenge to you guys tonight. If you've already known about the guide, great. Now you know it's been updated, and it will continue to be updated on a regular basis since now JFS knows exactly how useful it is.
One thing I wanted to say is another idea too, to go along with this, since this is a good passion of yours and that you're pursuing. Akron also has a card. It's like a credit card size. And I don't know if you've seen those or not.
Not
But-
Akron specifically, sorry to cut you off. So
No,
Josh
no.
Bartholomew, he is our county CIT officer, he's also a Streetsboro police officer. He was on my group for the SIM project, and so he has a business card that the Mental Health and Recovery Board created for him. And it only has like a few emergency numbers. We talked about getting that reprinted with this QR code and being able to disperse that kind of far and wide, because to your point, Amy, I said,
They could keep
if
it in their
someone
wallet.
is homeless, they're not gonna wanna carry a
Right.
big guide or even a poster or a postcard size.
Right.
But they have room in their wallet for a business card.
Yeah,
So,
and,
thank you for
and they
bringing
had
that
the emergency, like, they picked the necessity numbers on the front of the card for like food, water, or, shelter, medical, and dental. They had those listed of like the main numbers that you need to start with, and maybe a few other numbers. And I think they even had like a pharmacy number too for like medications. And then on the back, you could put the code on it, where they could scan it for a whole listing of everything. But, if you only could, if it was an emergency, you're homeless, and you need to start with a certain number, maybe narrow it down to those numbers and, have them on the front of the card. But that's why I know over at the services of Summit County, they do hand those out to new applicants, and they are the size of a credit card.
Thank you
So-
for bringing that up, because that was
Absolutely.
totally a suggestion. I was like, it's gotta be able to fit
Yeah,
in the wallet.
and that was the purpose, for a wallet and
Yeah, so that's in the works as well, and the Mental Health and Recovery Board hopefully can be a resource to use some of that, I guess, for their expense. But if you guys have a suggestion, and I mean, now you have the QR code, so I don't see why you couldn't copy and paste it and put it on anything you wanted to
put it on our website.
Any questions?
I just want to say thank you. This is something that I've used often. I've stopped using it because it wasn't updated. So now I know I can start sharing it with folks again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let me throw it back to the public here. Does anyone else would like to make a statement this evening? Yeah.
Probably the only one I remember being on council since I've been here before. Is that working? Okay.
Yep.
My name's John Plow, and I live on Madison Street in Ravenna. I've been a lifelong resident of Ravenna. I've lived on Madison since 1977. And there's a couple of things I want to discuss. One is the speed limit signs. I was walking my dogs one night last week, and I don't know, it was about 11 o'clock. I just take them out for a quick walk, and somebody came up Madison from Mill Road, headed towards Main Street, going about 50 miles an hour. And it's almost impossible not to see people speeding on that street every day. And now I know there's signs at in the entrances of the city say that the speed limit is, if it's not posted, it's 25. But I don't know how many people read that. And I've talked to the chief, he's let me put some small speed limit signs up on Madison Street, but people ignore them. So I would ask that there's a possibility to start putting speed limit signs wherever there's an intersection that comes onto a street, so people know what the speed limit is. Second, I would ask that they be enforced, because I have not seen many folks, police officers, enforcing the speed limits in Ravenna, except during the school zone times. and I think that would help. I know if you go up to MGM Casino in Northfield, Ohio, they have this 25-mile-per-hour speed limit up there, and the police enforce it a lot. And people know that if they come through there at 30 miles an hour, they're gonna get stopped and get a ticket. And I don't see that happening in Ravenna like I used to see it. And I've worked with law enforcement for, most of my life in one way or another. And I was also request maybe you could change the limits on Main Street. I know they're 25 in through the business district, but I like to ride my bike, and I cross at Madison and Main, which also intersects at a kind of funny way with Oakwood, which goes towards City Park. And some people are breaking that red light almost every time I cross it, because there's a stop here for Madison, the light's here up at Oakwood, and they see that light, if they're coming west, and they see that light start to change, they go right through the bar, and I'm seeing them 3 or 4 seconds after, and Amy lives near there, so she probably knows too. 3 or 4 seconds after that light turns red, they're going through the sign at about 40 or 50 miles an hour. So I don't know if you can do anything about that, but if you could change the speed limits. Ever since they took that light out at Zeta, it seems like people coming into town headed east, coming up from Black Horse, the only light they have is that one by Richardson's until they get to Madison Street. And people are just flying up that hill, coming into town like 45, 50 miles an hour all the time. And I don't see, I've asked the chief if he could get somebody to try to enforce the red lights at both Scranton and that intersection at Madison and Oakwood on Main Street. And I haven't seen anybody out there doing that.
John, I will tell
Yeah.
you, there has been several occasions, because I also had brought up my concerns with the Oakwood stops, the light at
Yeah.
Oakwood and Main, because I too see cars flying. I
Oh,
mean, they
yeah.
don't, the red light doesn't faze them,
No,
and
not at
they
all.
will fly through there. And there has been several occasions, the police set back by the insurance
Okay,
company
they
as
do
I'm
try to
coming.
enforce it.
And they have been there, but it seems like when they're there, they're just not catching them for
Yeah.
whatever reason. But periodically, I do spot them there, so.
Well, that's good to hear.
I will let you know that, they have been there.
I don't know what you can do about that intersection other than to put another light there or make it a four-way stop. I don't
And
know.
we do have a truck on our street that is going, and it lights up from stop sign to stop sign. So by the time we were outside doing Christmas lights, and that truck, literally, I know exactly what you mean,
Yeah.
they light up, and they go from stop sign to the next stop sign, and sometimes they will run the stop sign on, up by Jefferson in that area.
Yeah.
That crosses over Riddle. And he'll completely fly by there. And I think he lives closer to you on that one side street now, but
Really?
we can't get the license plate number quick enough when he goes through. So I will make a phone call, or I'll email the chief, because I do know the description of the vehicle.
Good.
And it is very scary.
is.
This guy does light up, and he's new in the area. It is very dangerous.
Really?
So,
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you
Absolutely.
making an effort. The second thing I wanted to talk about was trees, which usually brought me up here in the past many times. The cutting of trees and the planting of trees on the tree lawns, or the devil strips, whatever you want to call them in Ravenna. And the reason that I thought about it today was they were cutting a tree down at the Catholic cemetery, which I filed a lawsuit back in 2005 against the cemetery, because they were cutting all the trees down inside. And they started cutting the trees down along the edge of the road there on Mill Road. And when I filed the lawsuit, I had a surveyor come in and check where the trees were. Were they on cemetery property along the edge of the road, or were they on city property? Well, it turns out they were on both city and cemetery property. So Judge Enlow ruled in my favor on that and said the cemetery could not cut those trees down without the city's permission. And at that time, Don Cainrad was the service director, and he said, we're not cutting those trees down. So they had to not cut them down, but they'd already cut a tree that the tree commission, when Jim Nagella was still on it, that's how long ago, they had planted right in front of the old building they use as a chapel down there, and they cut that down. before I got down there and was able to get an injunction. And they cut another big tree down before I got there, but they were cutting one down today, which had some serious problems. But they told my wife last week they were just trimming it, and then today they came back, and I called the service director's office, and I was informed that, no, that tree is definitely one to be removed. So they did the final cutting today, and we're cutting it down. I don't know why they told us last week that it was just going to be trimmed, but that wasn't apparently true. But it's the same problem I've seen over the years when you decide to cut a tree down on a tree line. You get the arborist to go out, and he looks at it and makes a physical exam of the tree, but he doesn't use an instrument that can tell you whether that tree is solid enough to stay up, and it's called a resistograph. And I was on the tree commission for 2 years, and that was in 2013, 2014, but I've been asking them to use this measuring device for a year or so. It's not guesswork. So I printed up an article called treeinspection.com that talks about measuring decay with a resistograph. And the one paragraph in there kind of confirms what I was trying to tell the lady I talked to today. It says, test results. Our arborists depend on the results of resistograph testing to help you decide whether or not to condemn a tree. When we make a recommendation for taking a tree down, we want to be able to provide solid evidence for why removal is necessary. So even though performing this test adds to the cost of tree inspection, doing it is far better than relying on guesswork, which is basically what arborists are doing when they're going around looking at trees. Oh, hello, Mayor, I didn't see you there. Frank knows I talked to him a lot about trees. But, and there was a tree, this is just one example. I lived on Madison for 47 years. Back in the 90s, they wanted to cut a tree down in front of Mrs. Black's house. Okay, she lives 3 doors down from me. And Don Cadenrad at that time said, if the person that owns the house objects to it, we won't cut it down. So she objected, and they didn't cut it down. That was back in the 90s, they had that mark to come down. It's still there today, and it's still healthy, and it's still producing leaves and giving shade to the street. Also, they wanted to cut a tree down on my tree lawn one time on Madison when Sue, I think it was Sue Mono there the first, I forget who it was the first time. But I had to hire an arborist, Jason, I can't think of his last name. Anyway, he came down with a resistograph and measured the trunk and found out that the trunk was more than solid enough to keep it from falling. It was not in the area that it would have to be removed because it could be a danger. And then a few years ago, when you got the new arborist, he marked it to come down, and I had to do the same thing all over again. I think I had to pay like $400 to $500 each time to save that tree, which is on the tree lawn, by the way. But the resistograph proved both times that there's nothing wrong with the tree internally to be cut down. And that's why I know it's expensive to get the resistograph done, but it's also expensive to cut a tree down. And I know the lady told me today there was one tree they had to cut down this year, I think after the storms, cost $5,000 to cut it down. The resistograph, if you get somebody to contract with a city, you can do it for probably a couple $100 a tree. And I don't know how many trees a year you have to inspect, but if it's going to save you paying $5,000 to cut a tree down, you can pay for it in 1 year, using it. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And there was another tree that Frank came down. We inspected that one. You decided to cut that one in front of Joe Gadd's house. Yeah. By the way, I heard he passed away.
Yes,
yeah.
we received it.
And anyway, you decided to cut that tree, but there was another tree up there at the corner of Conant Court in Madison that you said, no, we're not cutting that tree. That was healthy, right?
Yes.
And the next thing I know, and about a month later, it got cut down, and you said that was a mistake.
I did not authorize.
Yeah, it wasn't authorized, but they came down to cut it down anyway. Right. It was a perfectly healthy tree.
So you're asking for the resistograph, the city to purchase. I'm looking for an action item here. So is that what you're requesting?
Yeah, make it something you can purchase and use before a tree is condemned down. Those trees are 75, 85, 100 years old. A lot of them are very healthy and not not gonna fall. They've withstood a lot of big storms over the last few years.
Yep.
What is the price of one of those, the average?
I
Just-
don't know what they cost, probably several $1,000s, I would
I
think.
just wondered with some of the funds.
Well, if Matt, looking at you now, being on the liaison to the tree commission, if you might, I don't know when the next meeting is, but if you could bring that up with Mr. Content, then,
Absolutely. We won't meet again until January, but that will be on the agenda to discuss.
I'll give that to you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
This is the article.
I appreciate
Yeah.
The money that we have to spend by.
So,
that's our
anyway,
When is
I like to see that, I
end
know
of next year.
everybody wants economic development to draw people to town, but I can tell you one thing.
trees?
Good-looking trees along the edge of the roads will draw people to town.
Yep.
And I know that you finally started, I was on the tree commission 13 and 14. Just the last 2 years, you started planting, right?
Yes.
And it's from 2007 until 2021, there were no trees planted in Ravenna, even though there were hundreds of trees cut down and hundreds of trees damaged and had to be cut down from storms. So it went 14 years without tree planting. And I know the city of Lyndhurst, which isn't much bigger than Ravenna, if it is in fact bigger, they plant 300 trees a year, 150 in the spring and 150 in the fall along the tree lawns. And that's really what we need to get to in Ravenna, to make up for all the trees that have been cut down over the years or damaged and cut down as a result of storms. But if you go down, especially, and then the lady told me today, they're not planting large trees like oaks or maple anymore. And if you go down, when I lived in Ravenna growing up on South Chestnut Street, every street, there was shade over the street, all the way up and down the street, all streets in Ravenna. Now, if you can find 1 or 2 streets that have that in the town, you're lucky. So, but I would ask that the tree commission consider making a recommendation to council that if you're gonna plant trees along the sides where there's no utility poles, you plant trees that can grow fairly tall.
Yeah.
Because-
Have you had a conversation with the service director at all about, I can't remember Tree Keeper, I think we have?
What is it?
Tree Keeper, the software that we have. I think
I've heard about that, yeah, I know what that is.
What I'm recommending.
The Davy Tree,
Yeah,
that-
I think what I'm recommending right now is that you have a conversation with the service director about the
Okay.
trees and see how many they plant.
Okay.
I'll catch you next time you're at Havers, and maybe we can run and
Okay.
talk about this.
sounds like a good idea.
But to circle back real quick, I don't want to go too deep in the rabbit hole, but I know one thing that went through public health and safety recently was speed limit signs. So you'll see some come through
Good.
that should be, what's the word I'm looking for, temporary in
Yeah.
different locations, so they'll be, they'll flash the speed, and then the chief will be able to use
One thing that
it.
Akron did is they put in something like a speed bump to control
Speed
people's speed.
hump,
over-
speed
Huh?
hump, speed hump.
Speed hump, they
Yes,
call it.
yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, and I don't know how that's gone over there. I guess they were gonna use them for a while and see how it went.
So, I'll reach out to you after though, and then
Okay.
we could talk to Mr. Finney about changing speed limits. I'm not too sure the process with that on Main
I
Street.
know
but-
there's a speed, if it's a business section, I think you can do it without doing a survey, can't you? If it's in the business district, it's
I'm not
25.
100% sure of that.
Yeah, I'm
We
not
always-
positive, but I think.
Yeah,
But anyway, I appreciate
appreciate
you all
it.
for listening. I'm sorry I
Yeah.
took up so much of your time.
Appreciate you coming in. It's good
Thank
seeing you. Thanks. Anyone else like to speak this evening? All right. We'll move on to report of officials then. You should have the packet in front of you. Were there any questions regarding those? And Chief, I saw the FEMA update, so sorry to hear, but appreciate the update either way. Has there been any was SAFER included in that? Okay. Well, if there's no questions, do we have a motion to accept as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And moving on to report of the committees, committee meetings will start at 6 PM on December 11th, beginning with utilities, Mr. Moskin.
No, there will be nothing on the agenda.
And information systems, Ms. West.
Nothing this evening, but we will have a meeting in December.
Planning, Mr. Karas.
We have 3 items on the agenda for consideration tonight, and we will have a meeting next Monday.
All right, committee of the whole will be on Monday, December 18th at 6 PM. Anything for public health and safety, Ms. Michael?
Yeah, we have several items on the agenda this evening, and I'm not sure yet on the status of our meetings for next week.
All right, streets and sidewalks, Mr. Harper.
I don't believe I have anything this evening, but we will be having a meeting next week.
And personnel, Mr. Calfee?
Yes, we will have a committee meeting next week.
All right. And community and economic development, Ms. Wood?
3 items on the agenda this evening and to be determined for next week.
Any updates from the cemetery?
Yes, I'll just say they're happy with their upcoming pay raise. We had a very positive conversation pertaining to the bridge. So that was very
What's the
pleasing.
time? Is there a timeline on that? The bridge, is there a timeline on?
We've appropriated additional funds.
That's been going on a while, hasn't it?
It is. We had some carryover this year that we were able to appropriate to capital project, along with some of the Schaefer funds. Bob's been working with the company on some prospective bridges, and looks like we're gonna move forward with one or the other here real soon. We'll make a final decision in January, and depending on the timing of construction of the bridge, will depend on when we can have it done, but should be next year sometime.
All right.
Put that to rest.
Yes.
All right. Turn it over to Mr. Calfee. And I know we're joined by Ms. Watkins, but you want to give an update on Parks and Rec?
Yes, a couple things tonight I'd like to share with you. You know, the Recreation Department runs a number of programs, the basketball, volleyball, gymnastics, all those things. I don't know if you did know that we also organized some tours, and the Recreation Department just recently completed a bus tour to Lancaster, PA, and it was completely sold out. And took a whole group of people over there for a couple days, and it was organized through the Recreation Department, quite successful. Parks and Rec also had a fundraiser recently. It was a paint and sip, and the idea was the more you sip, the more you donate funds. We're still waiting for the results of the fundraiser on that. And last, I wanted to keep you updated on the Emerald Lake Preserve. We continue to work to return the preserve to its natural state. Invasive plants have been removed in a couple rounds, both this past summer and fall, and we're going to have another round of removing invasive plants in the spring from some of the aquatic areas. And so we're continuing to work on that, and it's looking good for, in the near future, for us to be able to open it up and let some people walk through and enjoy it. So Emerald Lake is moving forward.
Great.
And that's all we have tonight.
All right, thank you. Well, we'll move on to first reading of ordinances then, beginning with ordinance number 2023-127.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept the State of Ohio Division of EMS Grant Award in the sum of $1,200 and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael?
And it's just, we discussed this in our committee meeting, and it's accepting the funds. Nothing different.
Any questions from council? We have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kears?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kears?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kears?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. Moving on to ordinance number 2023-128.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Civic Plus for emergency notification services and appropriating $6,005 and declaring an emergency.
This is sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael?
Hi, yeah, this is an emergency alert system that I think it's overdue needed. It's an alert system that our residents can sign up for, and it can be anything from water breaks to active shooters to events through perhaps Parks and Rec, through some of our organizations locally. But you know, we talked about ways that residents could sign up if they're interested through our website, water bill, different options. It can come through as an email, as a telephone call and also as a text message. So it's pretty much bringing us up to speed with technology and getting the information to the residents as soon as possible. And what's nice is, especially with the water alerts, you know, it can be broken down by certain areas. Not everybody is like on their computer, or most of the time people have their phones. So, you know, you'll be notified in your particular area if there's, you know, problems with your water, or if there's an active shooter in your area to take safety measures. One thing we talked about too is that there could possibly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it would be like a split possibly throughout the departments as far as funding the position. So that was another plus. So that's really about it. There is a service agreement, but other than that, I think it's a pretty good deal for what the system provides and the safety it offers to our residents.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
Moving up.
Yeah. So, any questions from council? Well, I appreciate Ms. Michael, Mr. Content bringing it to us. Yeah. With
Yeah,
that,
do you have anything else, Tim, since you?
No, it's a win-win for our residents. It's just,
Yeah.
it's really good system. There you go.
Yeah.
all right, if there's no other questions, we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly? Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item is ordinance number 2023-129.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Marlborough Township for dispatching services to be performed for the calendar years 2024, 2025, and 2026, and declaring an emergency.
And this is also sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Ms. Michael?
Yes, and this also is just allowing the mayor to go into contract, authorizing this contract. This is another opportunity of the city of Ravenna to provide remarkable dispatch service to Marlborough Township. You know, one thing we knew when we set up the dispatch center, it was not going to be a money-making event for us to, you know, make money, but it was going to help offset our costs. So the chief had explained that this, you know, was doable, and again, this is helping us offset our cost. And I think everybody that we do provide dispatch to is very happy, and others are wanting to join us. So I'm excited to get a farther out community that, you know, wants to come to Ravenna for their dispatch. I'm quite proud of that, so.
Any questions from council? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
That ordinance is adopted. The next item is ordinance number 2023-130.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Portage County Public Defender to defend indigent defendants charged with crimes in the city of Ravenna for the year 2024 and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas?
Yeah, this is an annual contract we have with the Portage County Public Defender's Office. When people can't afford a lawyer, we provide them the services. And the contract is the same as the last couple of years. It's $150 per charge, but everything else about the contract stays the same.
Any questions from council? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2023-131.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an enterprise zone agreement for MCSM LLC and declaring an emergency.
Do we
Oh, sorry.
skip one?
Yes, we did. An ordinance approving a contribution of $30,000 to Main Street Ravenna for downtown revitalization efforts for 2024 and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Planning, Mr. Karas.
So last year, the city donated $15,000 to Main Street Ravenna. They presented an argument that suggests that Heritage Ohio sets a standard, it's not a hard and fast rule, but a standard that says that the city, the municipality, should be contributing about a third to their operating budget. Their budget is $90,000, and so here we are talking about a $30,000 donation to Main Street Ravenna for this year.
And the conversations I've had with some members of council is that we are supportive of Main Street Ravenna, so I am, based on those conversations, unless somebody wants to take a vote as it is, recommending that we amend this to $20,000 as the amount that we would donate to Main Street Ravenna, based on those conversations, because I want to make sure whatever we do tonight, that everybody is in favor of. I think we all support Main Street and the chamber, obviously, that are here, so making sure this is a 7-0 vote, and we don't have any nays on this is important.
I think to get there, the first thing would be to have a vote to modify this.
Correct. Modify the ordinance as it is,
Yeah.
yes.
So is there somebody going to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to modify the 30,000 to 20,000.
I'll second that.
So that would be a $5,000 increase, which I think is fair.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes to the modification.
Mr. Karas?
No.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Do you need a reread, or can it be voted on as is?
We can vote on it as.
Okay. Is there any questions with the ordinance as it reads with the amended $20,000 amount? Comments? If there are none, can I ask for a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2023-132.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an enterprise zone agreement for MCSM LLC and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by, is it Streets and Sidewalks? I didn't flip the page yet. Community and Economic Development, Ms. Wood. Apologies.
This is for the expansion of the business and increase in number of employees. It would be a tax benefit to the business that wants to stay here in Ravenna, and this will help enable their expansion.
And I believe, Chelsea, you correct me if I'm wrong,
We don't have,
this is going to stay on for second reading?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
and that's because the Board of Education or
Because the
school
Board of,
system hasn't
It's voting
approved it.
tonight. Yep,
I
correct.
think they meet tonight.
yep. Is there any questions before we move on? Well, then that'll stay here, and we'll move on to ordinance number 2023-133.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an economic development revolving loan fund administration agreement with the state of Ohio, Ohio Department of Development, Office of Community Infrastructure as required by the state of Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Community and Economic Development as well. Ms. Wood?
Yes, this is housekeeping item. It's the required agreement with the state for the administration of the revolving loan funds for the community and economic, or community development block grant funds.
Any questions from council? Hearing none, do we have, oh, and it's staying here. It's getting into a groove.
It's staying here because the state has delayed. The state provides the agreement because they're the ones that require it, and the state is always, typically is delayed. It is not available for the updates, if any, so we're just going to keep it on go on to second read because we're hoping that it's done here in the next few days.
So what is in our packet?
That is it's done annually, so that is, I'm sorry,
Oh,
biannually.
okay, so this one ended in this month.
Right.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's
So why is it in our packet?
So that you can see which agreement it is.
You like to read stuff.
But they will be sending out the new one once the state provides it.
Okay, okay, thanks. Oh, yeah, it was already signed. Never noticed that.
Any other questions on this? So this will stay here. We'll move on to ordinance number 2023-134.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign an extension to the 2021 Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program, CHIP, and declaring an emergency.
And this is also Community and Economic Development. Ms. Wood?
Yes, so this is regarding the home revolving loan funds in order to expend those on approximately 14 additional full home rehabs to owner-occupied residents within the city of Ravenna. This is for the administration portion of the CHIP agreement, not for the entire CHIP. The CHIP has been already fulfilled. This is to utilize the home RLF funds to continue until the next CHIP is available. The home funds can only be explicitly spent on home-eligible projects. So this is not like the community development block grant funds. This is home-specific requirements.
Any questions from council? Okay. do we
I
have a-
wish I knew more about what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm a little lost too.
We can
but
have one.
Sounds like we got to,
We'll have a workshop with Cheryl.
Yeah. Basically, we're releasing the funds for these 14 projects for home rehab within the city.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a nice Cliff Note version.
Yeah.
there you go.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item is ordinance number 2023-135.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Heather Rachowski to perform human resource services and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Personnel. Mr. Calfee?
This is Heather's contract for Human Resources Services. It's the 7th annual one-year contract, and we're recommending the approval of the ordinance.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item is ordinance number 2023-136.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Ravenna Township trustees and Dennis West to perform economic development services and declaring an emergency.
And this is also sponsored by Personnel. Mr. Calfee?
And this contract in the past has been a one-year annual contract. In this instance, we're looking at a three-year contract. And again, we're partnering with Ravenna Township on the funding of this contract and recommending its approval for the next 3 years.
So I had brought up the MOU component to this and got a voicemail from Mr. Semino this morning suggesting that we do indeed need to update the MOU, because the MOU that we have from last year spells out the salary at $80,000 and actually talks about it just for the year 2023. So my suggestion is we have the MOU drafted for the new, corresponding to the new contract and the new term, and that we kind of vote on both of those simultaneously, perhaps at the special we have on the 28th.
Okay, so leave this here on.
Yeah, that's my suggestion.
And we had that discussion about the MOU and whether it needed to be updated, not knowing the specifics of it, but with the specifics of it calling for 1 year only and the salary rate in it. I don't see an objection with us redoing that MOU.
Yeah, and the fundamental problem is that the contract spells out how much the contract is for and the term. It doesn't spell out the township's contribution. And the MOU clearly spells out what their contribution is and what the city's is.
Okay. And with that, Mayor, are we okay with getting that arranged?
We're fine with it. I want to have this completed before the end of the year.
Yeah.
For Mr. West. He's done a great job for us with that. We've been in contact with one of the trustees. They're taking it to their meeting next week. I believe it's Tuesday of next week. Then our meeting will be after that. And he did not see a problem with getting it passed at the township. So we'll be fine.
Okay. And it would come to the special meeting that we have scheduled a little later this month?
28th.
So Brian, do we need that meeting? Because there was some conversation that we might not have that one.
For many of the things that we normally get on the year-end meeting, we're getting approved here, like the medical insurance, some of these contracts, some of the stuff. We were trying to eliminate the need for always having to have that meeting that we do at year-end. So we may or may not need that meeting.
Okay.
If we don't do that meeting, there'd be the option to do a special council on the 18th.
Okay,
If you
that
guys
was going to
wanted
be my question, yeah.
So either way would be fine.
Yeah,
I thought we had to have that meeting for some reason.
that's
Yeah,
what I,
you're right.
Most cities don't have that. The reason they were doing it was because of the appropriations and passing the budget.
we just wanted to
Most
get,
cities don't usually do that. It's something kind of special we do here.
just wanted to get council out at 9 a.m. on
It takes a little bit more effort to put the budget together sooner than later. So that's why maybe it's just easier to do it at the year end, but
Okay,
it's not a requirement to do that.
but the MOU regardless should be ready by then, okay.
We'll get it done.
Yeah,
Okay.
he said it was on their agenda for the 12th.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So we'll leave this here. Any questions before we move on? All right, we'll move on to ordinance number 2023-137.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-125 by amending Exhibit A, Section 3, Service Department, subsection B3, the Water Department, by amending staffing levels to add an additional water plant operator and declaring an emergency.
This is also personnel, Mr. Calfee?
This ordinance is going to increase by one the number of water plant operators that we have from current 6 to 7. Those 7 positions were in the Water Department as recently as 2014. They have not, it was not added in over the past few years, and I think we saw a compelling argument for adding this position, especially with the amount of overtime that we're putting into covering the plant, which requires 24-hour coverage. And so we're recommending the increase by 1 in the staffing for the water plant operator.
Will this be funded completely from water treatment plant?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. Next item is ordinance number 2023-138.
An ordinance establishing the minimum educational and experience qualifications for the finance director for the city of Ravenna and declaring an emergency.
All right, and this is sponsored by Personnel 2. Mr. Calfee?
This ordinance establishes the educational and experience qualifications for the finance director. We talked about it a couple times, and we landed on the bachelor's degree in accounting or finance or related degree, and also experience at a supervisory or management level in accounting. Those requirements are the only ones that we're recommending put into the charter for the requirements for that position.
So, and I fully agree with what you just said as being the requirements, but in this ordinance, there's a subsection to the minimum years experience that talks about the duties, the subsection A. And I'm not sure why that's there. As you just explained, our role is to set minimum qualifications, and now we're diving into job description. And I'm not sure why that was added.
Can you again say where you're referencing that?
If you look at the ordinance itself, in section 1 of the ordinance, after the whereases, it has exactly what you said as the educational requirements is number 1, and number 2 is the minimum of 3 years experience. And then under number 2, there's an A that reads, typical duties to satisfy this qualification would include, but are not limited to, hiring. And so, I mean, we didn't have that when we were talking about this all along, and all of a sudden, and there's more than that in there. And when you refer back to the job description we were given, that seems to be taken from that job description. And I just wonder if that's necessary. And did anybody talk to you about this?
No.
And if we're not comfortable voting on it, then we're having the special anyways, then we might take this up between now and then, the conversation, and bring back an updated version then.
If nothing else, it would be nice to have a reasoning why that was added when we I thought ironed out what we were going to.
Yeah, my impression was we were section 1, number 1 and number 2, and it ended there.
Yeah.
The A, that subsection, may be a little different than what we talked about, and so I need to follow up on that.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
Is there any other questions from council on this before we move on? So I'll stay here, and Mayor, we'll pick that up at the special. That's the intention.
Yes, that's fine.
Moving on to ordinance number 2023-139 then.
An ordinance fixing the number of employees of the city of Ravenna, establishing a classification plan, a salary schedule beginning January 1st, 2024, in accordance with Exhibit A attached here to, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by the finance director.
Okay. So we discussed this one in committee. It's basically 2% increases implemented for everybody. This document's obviously a very living, breathing document. We're discussing now a lot of changes. We just talked about the service, the water plant. We got some firefighters that are coming up on the agenda with the IT position. So there's going to be some changes to that. And there's another position, there's a couple other positions we're looking at some classification changes too. So this is as it is right now, but there will be further changes coming in the future.
Is this one that we should take up at the special as well? Is there going to be additions before that?
Yeah, there's a couple positions that aren't on there that should be on there, and they had talked about, prior to the meeting, that they are going to be addressing that. So we can amend, and do an amendment after they've fixed those, other positions and add to this. I mean, we could pass what's now and then come back when you have the other two positions fixed. It's however you want, or however council wants to
If the
do it.
intention is to update the ordinance in front of us, then I would rather wait to pass it.
I'm okay.
Well,
It'd be one less vote that way too.
I should say
Do one vote then.
well, I think I think the reasoning for waiting on the two other additions was we're going to have to change this anyway for the finance director position by April. And I don't know, I guess there was the desire to do this before the end of the year too, right?
Yeah, we do want to get this done before the end of the year.
Because if we don't pass it now, then those raises have to be
Yeah, we don't
done
want to go into
retroactive.
retros and all that, right?
So,
We did that once already.
yeah, so I guess my point is, if we want to avoid the hassle of retroactive pay increases, we should pass this as it is now. We're going to update the payroll ordinance anyway by April.
That's what you're saying.
So,
Yeah.
are you saying then the positions that currently aren't on here now that should be listed?
They're on there, they're just not listed as supervisors.
I know, but they should be.
Well, yeah, they
I mean, I don't want
haven't
to
been
get in
for
that
years.
discussion, hammer things out here, but I do have a problem that they're not listed. I don't think it's right. And I understand that there's some things that need to be fixed, but we do have a director here that is not listed on here, and
The
they are a
position's listed,
director.
it's just not listed with
Under
the
that,
supervisors.
right.
There's two of them, and the other one is, I don't know, what's the other one? It's not a director's position.
Well, it's more of a supervisor.
That one's a little
Supervisor.
different, but in the
Yeah.
past, it had
But
been
the
done.
question is, I mean, would those be fixed by the end of this month?
Are you planning on fixing them before the end of the year?
By
I
the
mean, that's up
28th?
to the mayor.
Yes.
That's the-
I mean,
So,
they haven't been discussed at the committee level or any of that, so, I mean, it just seems to me like we're kind of rushing to do something. I mean, the changes we're talking about, they've existed the way they've existed for a very long time. It's not like this is sudden, there's some sudden problem that was uncovered. Anyway, my opinion is, we should at least pass this by the end of the month.
and well,
If there's a commitment to make those changes,
then we fix
and if we're
those.
going to have the special meeting.
Well, we'll have a special on the 18th
Oh, okay.
or the 28th, so
well,
it's going to
but
happen
that-
either way.
Yeah, the 18th
So-
makes it that much more time
Well, that's what I'm-
dependent.
it's the-
When we have found that there's been mistakes with other issues.
I don't
we
know
have
that this
fixed
was a
them.
mistake, though.
Well,
You're describing it as a
There's something
mistake.
that must have happened, and I don't know what it was, but I do recognize it, and I think it needs to be, and it is recognized by the administration. So I'm okay with, like I said, passing what we need to pass, but once they figure out on their end what's going on, if we need to fix or back pay or do whatever we need to do, I think it's due diligence that we do what's right.
Well, I think it's still out there that if the intention is to get this added, in a week or two, then we should just pass it on the 18th and have a conversation, Mayor, possibly with Mr. Calfee, if this is running through personnel. Or, since this is Brian's, then we just have a conversation to make sure it's included and bring it to council on the 18th. And pass it all as one, so we don't have to go back and
Well,
make
I'm in
modifications.
favor of that. I mean,
Yeah.
First of all, we're making an assumption we're going to make a change, and I think that's something we need to discuss. I mean,
Oh,
it
you
has
can't
to go
go-
through the Personnel Committee before we do that. But if nothing else, we could pass what we have tonight on the 18th without any changes and still investigate if we have questions. But I think waiting till the 18th, if we're committed to having a special on that night, is fine with me.
We've got 2 agenda items at least for that special, so.
Okay, let's do that.
We'll have the special, and the intention is to pass the other 2 as well, so.
And I
add
just
this
hope
too.
that you at least, I mean, I have the 2 that are under the mayor, not that are in a union of any sort, to have those rectified so that we can get this going and pass on.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other questions before we move on? So this will stay here, and we will move on to ordinance number 2023-140.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into the necessary contracts with Medical Mutual of Ohio for hospitalization coverage for the period 1/1/24 through 12/31/24 and declaring an emergency.
And this is also sponsored by the finance director, Mr. Huff.
Okay, so we discussed this one in committee as well. We implemented some improved dental and vision plans for this upcoming year, and we also implemented a new wellness program as well. So we have a lot of good changes, good positive changes going on. And we were very fortunate to keep cost increases to less than 1% for the upcoming year. So kind of a win-win here for our wellness plan and our medical plan.
But we don't have the contract yet.
Any questions from council on this?
To have an increase of only 1%, I think is phenomenal. I mean, each time I've heard that the last 2 weeks, I think that is just,
Right.
however that worked out is just great, whether it's our improved number of claims or more people working in the wellness program, those number of things. That is a huge money
A little bit
saving.
of both, I think.
Yeah, it's a huge money saving, an excellent report.
And we've done this a couple of times. In fact, a few years ago, we actually got money back from them. And we shared that with our employees.
Yeah, it's a great outcome.
Yeah.
All right.
Wish we could guarantee it
Now,
every year,
the
but not
question
necessarily.
is, we don't have the contract. Do you want to act on this without the contract?
Let me ask, how soon might that be, approximately?
I'll have to ask Fidelli, and they're trying to get it to us quickly. They know we have to pass this before the first of the year, but I have not seen it yet.
The 18th is going to be busy.
Boy, oh boy.
Bring the eggnog and cookies, right?
Wow.
Well, I'm just pointing out that in the past, you don't want to pass it without seeing that.
Well, we can leave it here.
I didn't want to lead you to believe that
I'm fine with leaving it here if you have the contract for the next meeting. Is there any questions before we move on? All right, we'll move on to ordinance number 2023-141.
An ordinance making temporary appropriations by fund and by departments within funds and personal services payroll within departments for the fiscal year ending 12/31/24 as set forth in attached Exhibit A and declaring an emergency.
All right, also sponsored by Brian, or Mr. Huff, excuse me, sorry.
All right, so I think this one we can actually pass without bumping it to the 18th, I hope. Hope it's not too divided. This one was actually passed in the summer of, the summer of '23, so there's no changes to it. So this is just rolling it forward and starting the year. So I don't think there's any reason to hold this one up.
Okay. Is there any questions from council? Hearing none, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West? Oh. Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West? I'm sorry, Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
And a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item is ordinance number 2023-142.
An ordinance accepting the distribution of income taxes collected for the period January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, as outlined in Exhibit A and declaring an emergency.
Also sponsored by the finance director, Mr. Huff.
Okay, thank you. This one, we did discuss at the committee meeting. Most of the funds are going to stay the same, but we were proposing taking some money out of the general fund and putting it into our capital plan. We have a lot of capital needs coming up, and we're also discussing a possible new city hall, so we would want to have some money available for future designs and stuff for that. So that was the only change we had noted in that ordinance.
Is there any questions from council? I was going to request something on your agenda, but I'll wait. If there's no questions, we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings.
So moved.
So move. Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item, well, that's everything on first reading of agenda items. We'll move on to second reading of agenda items, beginning with ordinance number 2023-123.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Ravenna, Part 2, Administration Code, Title 2, General Provisions, Chapter 214, Purchasing and Contracts, Section 214.01, Policy for Purchases over $2,000 by amending the amount for settlement of... That is a typo.
I don't have it in here. Is that right?
Small claims.
I thought they were.
Brief recess.
Okay.
I'm going to reread the title. That was an old amendment. All right, an ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Ravenna, Part 2, Administration Code, Title 2, General Provisions, Chapter 214, Purchasing and Contracts, Section 214.01, Policy for Purchases over $2,000, by expanding the amount of funds that can be expended by the mayor or department head without the approval by council by ordinance for expenditures up to $25,000 pursuant to the additional terms set forth herein and declaring an emergency.
All right, and that's sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas?
Yeah, we've talked about this for quite some time. The current ordinance, 214, it was kind of confusing in wording. It talked about purchases over $2,000. What we decided to do is try to figure out a way where many of the purchases and contracts that come to City Council could be authorized without council approval. We set the threshold at $25,000 and then revised this chapter in our code to indicate, what the provisions are for allowing the mayor or department heads to spend up to $25,000 without council approval. We also added a paragraph stating that council would be seeing, after those types of contracts were established, a report listing the purchases, and we went through a few rounds with the finance director, and I think finally figured out a format which was acceptable, and so I believe we decided it would come up for a vote tonight.
Is there any questions from council? All right. Rob, I know you've been working on this for a while now. Do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause on this one?
So moved.
Second.
We still,
We'll go back to it. Yeah, I caught it in the middle of it.
okay. I'm
We're just
sorry.
going out of
Well,
order,
no, we're-
keeping you on your toes.
Is this second or third reading?
Second reading.
Oh, do we still need to waive
Yeah.
the third reading?
Yep.
Why don't we just do that? I move to waive the third reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, and now do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then do we have a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda, it's everything on second reading of ordinances. Now we're moving to third reading of ordinances, beginning with ordinance number 2023-111.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to sign an easement to allow First Energy to run electrical services to LG Chem America and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Community and Economic Development. I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, Ms. Wood.
Yes, this is exactly what it says, allowing First Energy to run the electrical lines in order to service the LG Chem property. There was originally some discrepancy in originally how they wanted to do it versus how we needed them to do it. And I think that Bob has resolved all of that to have them run the west side of the property along by the water tower. And I haven't heard any different, that anything has changed with that.
Well, that's the problem. Nothing's changed.
So they don't have the easement, but,
The easement is not, we don't have a copy of the easement. The poles were delivered today.
okay. And
Mr. Harner took a drive up through there to check on it, and they're there, but they don't intend to put them in until January, and it'll be ready in February for them to go with that.
Well, and Mayor, if I could jump in real quick, Chelsea spoke with Mr. Semino, and he left me a voicemail on procedure here. So if we wanted to leave this, rather than send it back to committee, the recommendation would be to postpone the vote until the 18th, if we're going to have it by then, or postpone it until January 2nd, the
Looks
next
like-
regular
No
meeting.
problem with that.
Okay.
Looks like January until they'll have
Do you-
more progress.
Do you think you would have the paperwork done by the 18th, or should we?
There is a wild card in this thing of people that bought the property on the lower level. And the people that are actually working there are leasing. And they're trying to sell this property. But they're also trying to make money from us.
Right.
For the privilege of
For letting
getting
us.
the-
Wow.
And we don't feel that we need to be that generous with this. It is going to get resolved, but it is not resolved to my satisfaction at this point.
Okay.
I'd like to have something. Now, there's, some people believe that they're just going to go ahead and put the poles up. I find that hard to believe. We still have poles they've never taken down, but they were delivered, and it's a Ravenna kid that's in charge of that project, so I'm hoping that that'll work, Mr. Singleton. Beyond that, there's also a waste line that is being used that is also, that they'd like a monthly payment on. And we're not inclined to agree with any of that because we believe that Mr. Harner has the rights to this, and if we go through his property, we're fine.
Well, it sounds like the safe play is to recommend a postponement on the vote until January
Yes.
2nd, I believe is the next meeting. It's a recommendation, though, I can't make the motion.
Make a motion to make the recommendation to postpone the vote until the January 2nd meeting.
Second.
Now, if we get an agreement, we'll get it, Chelsea will get it out to you as quick as we can.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right. And moving on to our final ordinance of the evening is ordinance number 2023-112.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2022-125 by amending Exhibit A of ordinance number 2022-125, Section 5, Mayor's Department, subsection A, and Section 18, salary employees, overtime exempt by adding a new position, Director of Information Services, and declaring an emergency.
All right. And this is sponsored by Personnel. Mr. Calfee?
The Director of Information Services is a position that we had in the past. This reestablishes that position after a number of years of not having it, and recommending its approval. I do wonder if on the ordinance it says by adding a new position. I don't know if it's adding or if it's reestablishing, because we did have the position back in 2016.
Yeah, that sounds like it needs reworded.
So I thought we were
I-
bringing it back,
Yeah, so
unless it's.
I don't know if that's a material difference and it
Would you like-
needs to be addressed or not.
We can make a motion to amend it.
Yeah.
So, these problems seem to compound each other. It also has the range as 21. This is a director's position in light of the two other supervisory positions, although this is not a supervisory position. This is, this is why that other discussion, I think, needs to be hashed out. But actually, now that I think about it, since it's not a supervisory position, right, there's no, then,
have no
okay, I retract
Yeah,
everything I just said.
You're right, it isn't, because there's nobody underneath that
Right.
individual.
Right, I'm thinking titles,
Right.
and, okay, never mind.
Okay.
Emily Lou Tell was
Do we still want to make a motion to amend this to reestablish the position? Or are you okay with the way it reads?
No,
Yeah, I don't know if it's a material difference or not,
Did
you know.
Mr. Semino
it should be
approve
worded properly.
Want-
I'll make a motion to addend it, to have it read, reestablishing the position instead of adding a new position.
Unless it was eliminated.
Well, it was eliminated.
But it was a position.
See, the only thing, I don't have any problem with that, I don't think it matters, but at what point in the future are we going to have to decide whether we had a position at one time and the wording of an ordinance? I don't think it matters, but if you want to change it, it's okay with me.
Motion's been made, I'll second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
No.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, do we have any other discussion or questions on this item? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. That's everything on the agenda. Do we have any old or new business to come before council tonight?
I do have, maybe it's under old business. Where are we with the plans for the building, the new building department? At what point are we gonna get, is council gonna get to see them? Are they close to?
I think they are close. We're waiting on the architects now.
That was going to be my question for Ms. Wood, if we could add that to her agenda. Yeah.
For what is this?
The new building.
City Hall, I mean, it could be yeah, I know, we're blending, we're blurring the lines here, but we could add to either or CED or planning, if you'd like, but either way, I'd like, if there's an update that could be provided to council on that, and then the finance, I think, is the second part, if we can.
I have not seen them either.
Well, I think just getting the finances in order so that, the intention is to move forward with that, then what does that look like, and what role does council play in that?
When we start defining it.
That's, yeah. So in our packet is, for the fire department, 3 positions, tracking sheet. But it's nowhere on the agenda.
Yeah,
and it's
was it,
nowhere-
I noticed that too.
So I didn't know if that was something
tracking
that,
sheet for the
did we
fire
miss
department?
it? Did
That was in
we?
personnel.
No, it'll be on for the next committee.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
I
It's in
think
the
we're
back of
waiting
the
for an
packet, but-
official proposal.
Yeah.
Yes, it's returning to committee this month,
Yeah.
next week.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't here.
So we will get an update at committee meetings then with where we are and how that's being looked at. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
And then alongside it, the finances. I think that's a bigger question of how would we pay for
They
it? And
go
what does that
together.
look like? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which thing are you talking about now?
The city hall. So the new, the
Oh, okay.
new proposed city hall.
complex.
What does it look like and how are we going to pay for it?
I wasn't sure it was that or fireman.
Fireman's going to be on there either way. All right. I know we're all going to throw kudos around, so I'll start. But Ms. Michael and Ms., we're moving on, unless there's something else with old or new business that you'd like to discuss. But we just had the parade that council took part in, and I appreciate Ms. Michael, Ms. West, even though you couldn't make it, being sick, I understand. I appreciate you taking the time out. But putting that together, it was a fun night out, and if you haven't seen Matt with the glow sticks, it was pretty entertaining. He brought glow sticks.
Enjoyed them.
But then the after event that happened downtown, there was a lot of people. It was nice to see everybody out, even though it was so cold. The Main Street card I saw just came out, so if you guys are looking for gifts for people, I think you can ask Arison after to explain it, or Chelsea, but it's a gift card for a lot of the businesses in the downtown area. And then lastly, Popped just had a art show that just closed on Friday, which was a pretty cool experience, and she's looking to do something else December 14th, I believe, at her place. So right next door to the popcorn place, she's got an open art studio slash, it was just a cool little experience for Ravenna to have. So I just wanted to mention those things. I don't have too much to throw at you besides the city hall and how we pay for it. But with that, Mr. Harper, you want to, anything you want to say?
Nothing additional.
Ms. Michael?
No, I just want to say good luck to our street department and service department, coming up with some snow coming up, and I want to wish them the best of luck with our first snowstorm. It's supposed to be approaching, so
Yeah.
looking forward to the new leadership, and excited to see Tim start, so.
Yep. Yeah, I apologize. I should have welcomed you right off the bat. First council meeting that you're sitting in that chair, so hopefully Kay gets to relax tonight, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully she didn't turn on tonight, just let it go.
All right, Mr. Karas?
Quick explanation of my vote for Main Street. I would have supported $30,000 for Main Street. Seems to be the will of the council to reduce that amount, but I certainly was not going to vote against anything towards Main Street. So just to let you know why I voted no on the amendment. Tomorrow will be the first meeting of the steering committee to put together our comprehensive plan. So we're getting the ball rolling finally. It's a little bit behind schedule, but hopefully, once it does get started, we'll have a lot of things to report.
Good. Mr. Moskin?
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Mr.
No
Calvin?
additional comments, thank you.
Ms. West?
Nothing for me.
And Ms. Wood?
I just want to say, one, I'm super, super excited for the comprehensive plan to get started and roll out. And I think it's going to really set some paces forward for us. But with that being said, reflecting on this past year, I think we've done a great job with moving Ravenna forward and doing a lot of great things. A lot of things are in the works. We have some great employees and great consultants that we work with that have helped get that rolling. And everybody have a Merry Christmas, even though we'll see you next week.
Yep. All right, Mayor, I'll throw it to you.
Everybody that's talked, I crossed off what I was going to talk about.
We do that to you every week.
Even Rob. down there, I had on there. And the meeting, that's at noon tomorrow here.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right. All right, well then, do we have a motion to adjourn until January 2nd?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
A lot of notes here,
Yeah.
a lot of X's and notes and. A lot of December 18th notations.
Because